What's crackin'? Imagine this. You're a hardworking chicken, laying eggs every day, clucking through life and paying your fair share of chicken seed to the coop. Meanwhile, Bob, the richest chicken in the county, has a golden nest, a personal butler goose, and somehow pays less seed than you. You're sweating yolks every morning, and this guy's chilling on silk hay, tossing breadcrumbs to ducks, and paying next to nothing in tax? Let's break this down, because it sounds like a conspiracy, but it's actually just tax code gymnastics. All right, let's meet Alice. Alice is your average chicken. She works at the grain factory from 9 to 5, gets paid in standard feed, and every month, bam, a chunk of her feed goes straight to the IRS. She doesn't even get to see it. It's like a reverse magic trick. Now you see it, now you don't. Now, meet Bob. Bob is a rich rooster. But Bob doesn't work for feed like Alice. Bob owns the cornfield. He doesn't clock in. He doesn't wear a name tag. Bob just sits there, sips mint tea, and lets his assets, land, businesses, golden egg-producing hens, do the work. And here's where the magic begins. See, Alice gets taxed on her income, the stuff she earns. That's regular income tax. Pretty straightforward. The more she earns, the more the government scoops up. The code's written so it feels fair, with higher earners paying more. But Bob isn't getting taxed the same way. He plays a different game entirely. Instead of income, Bob makes most of his money from what's called capital gains. Let's say Bob buys a fancy chicken coop for $100 and sells it later for $150. That $50 profit, that's a capital gain. And here's the trick. Capital gains are taxed at a lower rate than regular income. So while Alice might pay, say, 24% of her paycheck in taxes, Bob, when he sells that coop, might only pay 15% on the gain. Same profit, different rules. But hold on, it gets even more yolk scrambling. Bob doesn't have to sell anything. He can just sit on his investments, stocks, property, businesses, and let them grow. This is called unrealized gains. Basically, he's richer, but he doesn't owe taxes yet. It's like your coop doubling in value, but you never sell it, so the IRS just shrugs and says, cool, we'll wait. Meanwhile, Alice gets paid every week. She has to spend it to live. She can't wait 10 years to sell her paycheck. And remember, no sale, no tax. That's the key to the game Bob's playing. But wait, there's more. Bob needs money to buy stuff too. Golden feed, hen massages, rare seed collections, rich chicken things. But he doesn't sell his assets to get cash. Oh no, that would trigger taxes. Instead, Bob borrows money. He walks into the Bank of Beak, waves around his massive stock portfolio and says, hey, lend me $1 million clucks. And they say, yes, sir, Mr. Bob Rooster, right away. Now, this is genius and also totally bananas because loans aren't income. You don't pay taxes on a loan. It's money you owe, not money you earned. So Bob gets $1 million in spending money, tax-free, while his assets just keep sitting there growing untaxed. And the interest on that loan? Bob might even deduct that from his taxes, depending on how clever his accountant is, which, let's be honest, is probably a Harvard-educated owl wearing tiny glasses. But this isn't illegal. This is just how the system is built. The tax code isn't broken. It was designed like this. And here's where the next plot twist lands. Some of these rich chickens, like Bob, don't even pay taxes at all in certain years. How? Well, imagine Bob's businesses have a rough patch. Maybe the luxury egg market crashes, or he invests in some bad crypto feather startup. Whatever it is, he takes a loss. That loss, he can use it to cancel out other income. And not just this year, he can carry that loss forward, sometimes for years. So even if he makes money later, the IRS goes, oh, right, you lost money back in 2023. We'll let it slide. So Bob ends up living a luxe life in a 4-story coop with egg-shaped hot tubs and feather polishing spa, and somehow reports no taxable income. Meanwhile, Alice got a 50-cent raise and moved into the slightly larger nesting box, and her taxes went up. Now you might be thinking, okay, but eventually Bob's got to pay something, right? Well, not necessarily, because here's the final omelet flip that really scrambles your brain. When Bob dies, his assets get what's called a step-up in basis. Sounds boring, I know, but this is the part where the IRS just politely walks away and whistles like nothing happened. Let's say Bob bought a piece of land for $100 and by the time he croaked it was worth $10 million. If he sold it while alive, boom, he'd owe tax on that $9.9 million gain. But if he just holds onto it until he flutters off to the great hen house in the sky, his heirs, say little Bobby Rooster and Henrietta, inherit it at the new value, $10 million. It's like the system hits a reset button, the tax clock starts over, no capital gains owed on those decades of growth. This strategy even has a name in rich people whisper: buy, borrow, die. Buy assets, borrow against them tax-free, die and let your kids reset the tax meter. It sounds like the punchline to a dark chicken joke, but it's very, very real. And that's the real yoke of the matter. While Alice is paying taxes on every peck and every paycheck, Bob is gliding through loopholes with legal elegance, barely touching the ground. His tax bill is like a ghost, always nearby, but somehow never quite materializing. Now, this doesn't mean Bob's evil. He's just playing the game with a custom deck of cards. And Alice, she's got the standard Coop-issued starter pack, one beak, one nest, a W2 form. But here's the kicker. You could technically play the same game Bob's playing. The tax code isn't some secret chicken scroll written in ancient Latin and hidden under the capital. It's right there, public. But here's the difference. You don't have the golden nest egg to start with. Bob has assets that can appreciate. Alice has a paycheck. Bob can borrow against stocks that gain value over time. Alice can't exactly walk into the bank and say, "Hey, I've got ambition and student loans. Give me 100 grand. See, it's not that the rich are cheating. They just have access to tools you don't. Now, to be fair, not every rich person pulls off this perfect little buy, borrow, die ballet. Some do pay more taxes. Some even advocate for higher taxes on the wealthy. But the system enables this behavior. And when you can afford the best lawyers, accountants, and financial advisors, you can turn every crack in the system into a full-blown tunnel to freedom land. And trust me, there are tunnels. You've got trusts. You've got offshore accounts. You can set up a family office with more staff than a chicken wing franchise. There's even something called carried interest, which is like the VIP lounge of tax loopholes. Hedge fund managers make millions off investments, but thanks to this weird rule, their income is taxed like it's a capital gain. So yeah, they're earning fat stacks, managing other people's money, and still paying a lower rate than a public school teacher. Meanwhile, Alice is getting emails from HR about the importance of financial wellness, while trying to figure out if she can afford name-brand eggs this week. And the wildest part? A lot of this stuff sounds too ridiculous to be true until you look it up and realize it's all perfectly legal. It's like Monopoly, but every time the rich pass go, they collect $20,000 in tax write-offs. And every time you pass go, you land on Audit Avenue. Now I know what you're thinking. This feels rigged. Shouldn't someone fix it? You're not alone. Plenty of people have clucked about reforming the system. There have been proposals to tax unrealized gains, to increase capital gains tax, to close loopholes, to create a wealth tax. You've probably heard words like fair share tossed around by politicians like confetti at a barn wedding. But here's the yolky truth. The people writing the rules are often backed by the same chickens who benefit from them. Campaigns need money. Lobbyists have access. Laws don't write themselves. So even when reform does happen, it tends to come with enough exceptions to drive a tractor through. It's not hopeless, but it is slow, like lay an egg a week, slow. So where does that leave us? You, me, Alice, everyone trying to navigate a world where the game is technically the same, but some players are on cheat mode. Well, knowledge is the first step. Understanding how the system works, how the rich pay less tax without breaking the law, lets you see the landscape more clearly. So, in conclusion, the rich don't necessarily have a different rulebook. They just start the game with extra pieces, a better board, and access to strategies that most people never learn. They don't make all their money from salaries, they make it from assets. And assets come with perks like lower tax rates, tax deferrals, and sweet, sweet borrowing power. Meanwhile, if you're working for every dollar, you're getting taxed first, spending after, and saving, maybe. But don't feel defeated. Feel aware, because awareness is power. If you want me to make other videos explaining these topics, please like and subscribe.